There we are. Okay, so that's good.
Meanwhile, I'm spamming this link to all my social media accounts.
let me just turn that off. Hey, everyone. Look who we have here today. Alex, all the way from, you're in Italy today, Alex, still?
Yes, hi Richard, hi to all your audience. Thanks for having me. It's always a great pleasure and an honor, and I'm very happy
Absolutely.
to be here again. Yes, I'm in Italy, in Milan, to be precise.
Have you left Italy much in the last couple of years? Have you stayed put?
No, I stayed in Italy. I did all my holidays having trips in our country. It's a quite enjoyable country because we have a lot of places, a lot of places you can go to enjoy this and a lot of good food. And so it was quite enjoyable to stay in Italy. And the same will do this year. And I don't know what we'll do next year.
Right.
It was 2 years of difficulties,
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
next one won't be any easier.
Well, we're doing okay in the United States. I just got back from NAB, and they had about 60% of what they had in 2019. About 52,000, they figured, attendees. I think in 2019 they had 92,000. So they're doing pretty well. And the masks were optional. They didn't have to wear masks. Most people did not wear masks there. You had to have proof of a vaccination or a negative test or whatever. And Apple's doing the same thing at WWDC. Masks are not required. And as a matter of fact, at the Apple event, proof of vaccination is not required. Only a recent COVID test is required. So things in the United States are getting, better, let's say.
That's the same in Italy, but we have a lot of the positive tests. I actually had 3 vaccine shots, and 1 month and a half ago, I had COVID. Me and my
Yeah,
wife stayed at home for 2 weeks. I was very fatigued, and she was not, and then everything it seems okay. But a lot of people all around the country is getting COVID without severe or with mild symptoms, nothing to worry about. But a lot of people is still getting contagious.
yeah. I guess we're doing better in the States. Everything seems to be settling down a bit. We didn't have to wear masks on the airplane. Optional if you wanted to. If I sat next to somebody who was wearing a mask, out of courtesy, I would wear a mask. If they wore a mask and I was sitting next to them, I'd wear a mask. But for the most part, I didn't have to worry about it, and it came back without any problems. 52,000 people, most people were not wearing masks. Hasn't been any problems going forward. So hopefully that continues, right? Hopefully that continues. I really liked being in person again. After all these years, I really, really enjoyed being in person. From the last, it's been 2.5 years, 3 years since the last NAB, 2019. So it's been 3 years. So that's good. I hope that continues. I hope we have in-person Creative Summit in the fall. So you didn't, you're doing okay in Italy. You said you got sick, but you're okay. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, everything is quite good. And now almost all restriction for mask usage are relaxed, but you have to use the mask mandatorily in theaters, cinemas, and in public
Right,
transports, and
right,
so in
right.
planes, everything. And we have a little fear, and we have a more strong limitations than you in US. But I think that everything is going to go well for this coming summer. And when the climate is hot, the transmission is very, very low. And today in Milan, it's just like summer. It's very, very, very warm today.
Right. So one of my favorite things about Italy is you guys invented espresso.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people think that France it's Italy. Espresso is Italian. That's where it came from. right?
If you talk about coffee, everything
Yes,
is related to
yes,
Italy.
yes, exactly. So that's one of the main things I like because I do like, as a matter of fact, I have coffee here. So it's 7 o'clock at night in Italy, but it's only 2 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock here, 1:17 on the East Coast of the good old USA. So, so
Correct.
you've been busy, Alex, with your plugins. BeatMark Pro is the latest one, but you have some other ones coming out. I think I saw today that you're doing a snippet replacement, text replacement kind of a plugin coming.
It's an app that I'm developing for myself because I always use the TextExpander, but I'm not satisfied with it anymore, and it's becoming very costly. I don't like subscriptions. And then for my research, because I do a lot of programming, I try to develop something that can handle all my snippet of code. And then I blended the two things together, and so yeah, I have a repository for snippet of code. And yes, I have to tell, it's some kind of keylogger that intercept keystrokes, so it can paste in the text field you are editing the stuff that you are doing that are saved in the repository, and it's getting very very well. And so I start to do a closed beta program in the next few days. I don't know where it will go, given the fact that I'm developing a keylogger. It doesn't work with the password fields, and so it's not so dangerous. But I have to be careful about the stuff that the people hand to me. So legally talking, I'm very cautious. But I think it's gonna be a quite interesting app for the rest of us. It's not for editors, for video producers and video makers. It's for a lot for it can be used for a lot of usages, such as a text expander. But I think it's a little better than text expander.
Listen, you have no idea how excited I am to hear this because I've been a big fan of TextExpander, except, like you said recently, with the subscription model and everything. I'm still using the old version. It's working pretty well, but to have an yes, you same with you.
Me too. Yes,
So
me too.
I am very excited about that app, and not only that, but editors indeed can use that app. I mean, absolutely. You know, if you're doing something like if you repeat lower thirds or you repeat your name and repeat things, you know, it's absolutely captions or anything else. It's absolutely very handy for editors as well.
You know, the first thing, the most used keystroke I use is a double @ for the email.
Okay.
But the second one is it's how can I say, it's a dynamic snippet that adds date and time, and I use
Right.
it for the leader of my videos. And so if I use this keystroke @dv, that's the for date for video, it adds the date of the today date and the hour of the creation of this video, so I can send to my clients as a leader, and so I can
Sure.
identify this video always. Okay, I think it's gonna be something a little successful app, because a lot of people is getting interested in this.
No, they are. I think you might be surprised. I'm really excited about that because I've been trying some other text expanding things, and you know, text expander was really good in its day, and it you know, the subscription thing. I don't mind subscriptions for the most part, but if you've given us an app for all these years and we just paid for the upgrade, you should give us that option at least, right? With new
Yes,
updates.
I'm subscription are quite interesting business model for developers, but there's no user that can handle this lightly. Almost any user hate the subscriptions,
Right.
and today it's something that an evil that can be people cannot avoid. But I don't want to go with a bad karma producing something that uses subscription. So for all my apps, I always prefer the pay once, and then everything is yours forever. And
Right.
I have a program for upgrades from one version to another major release. So if you have the previous version, you can upgrade with a fraction of the cost. That's my
Excellent.
spirit, and that's my karma.
Excellent, excellent. So, speaking of subscriptions, did you see the announcement from Avid yesterday?
No, not yet. No.
They're getting rid of purchases of Avid starting at the end of 2022. Subscription only going forward. But that doesn't mean that if you have a copy of it now, that it's going to stop working like Adobe does. It just means that they're not going to offer that for sale anymore going forward. So you have 6 months to buy your perpetual, they call it perpetual copy. So it'll be, go ahead.
I remember something like this from Avid 5 or 7 years ago, that they announced it, and a lot of people were on the streets, went on the streets with rage, and so they said, "Okay, we joked," and then returned to the usual model. I think that the world has changed in these 5 to 7 years, and so they will stay with this option. But I don't know. Avid is used a lot in the professional world, in the more high-end world than Final Cut Pro. So it won't be a big problem for all the people. If Apple will do the same for Final Cut Pro, it will be they will have a not so positive reaction from the audience, I think.
The thing is, they can do a subscription, but please give people the options to buy it outright. You can do both. You can do both, right?
Yeah.
Give people the option. For example, with Adobe, they don't care about the customers that don't want a subscription. They just don't care about them. They've done nothing for the people who don't want a subscription. They just said, too bad, we're doing subscription only. You don't like it, go somewhere else. That's basically what they've been telling them for years. Do both. Give people the option for a subscription or the option to buy it outright. And the option, obviously, if you bought it outright, you have to pay for some of your upgrades, the major upgrades. So
I think that Adobe did a lot of Excel spreadsheets calculation, and they decided, okay, you know what, we will do subscription, and we don't care for all the people, for all the other people.
Well, that's the point. That's exactly right. They don't care about their customers.
I think that if we in Italy invented the coffee, you in USA invented the capitalism. So that's
true. That's true. No, I don't have any problem with the capitalism aspect of things. That is one. That's a separate issue. But it's that the thing with Adobe is if you stop paying, the software stops working. Even the version you have now that works on your computer, if you stop paying their monthly ransom, the version you have now that you already paid for stops working, which means you can never stop paying them. If you're 100 years old and you want to edit your family video, if you don't have a subscription, you can't do it. That's the problem that I have.
I know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not.
I actually use only one app from Adobe. That's After Effects. That is my favorite app, and that's is the app that I cannot. I will miss a lot since day one, and so that's the last things that linked me and tie me just very very close to Adobe. For all the other apps, Photoshop too, I can think today we can find alternatives, but I don't think I can find alternatives to Adobe After Effects.
Right. So we had one question since we talked about your Expander app. What more does your app do than TextExpander or text replacement by Apple? Roberto Myron says.
Interesting, because I'm here to talk about BeatMark Pro, but
that's fine.
Next app. No problem. Absolutely, I like this. Today the app does all the things, almost all the things that TextExpander does, but it handles a lot of stuff that you can do, given the fact that I'm doing some kind of key logger and key recorder. Not a recorder, logger, because I can intercept a combination of keys. And so if there's a combination of keys, you can launch an app, or open a document, or open a folder in the Finder, or you can paste an image in the place you're I don't know, if you're chatting, you have some images are pre-recorded, and so you can do a keystroke, and then the image appears, and it's pasted in the chat. And for the code part, I produce something that are fields that are customizable at the moment of the paste. And so if you have a snippet of code, or a letter, so you say I, and then use name, and blah 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 blah, and then you do the keystroke, a window appears to you, and telling you who is the name, and then you say Richard, and then it pastes hi Richard, and then blah 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 blah, all the name. So it's quite configurable, and I designed this for myself because I needed something like this, and I say to myself, I don't know, maybe I can. I don't know if I can sell it, but I think like maybe other people can find it useful. And
I will.
starting this
Absolutely.
closed beta program. I'll give you a free copy after this this recording. No
Thank
problem.
you. Yep. All right, so we're here to talk about BeatMark Pro. So for people that don't know, first off, you have, how many plugins do you have for Final Cut Pro at this point?
Actually, the number of plugins is 0, because all my apps are companion apps.
Okay, companion
that means
apps.
that are apps that works in tandem with the Final Cut Pro. For Final Cut Pro, I think 5 or 6. I don't know how many I have in this in the bundle, but all my apps are not final apps. They are something that try to integrate in my workflow, and so in the workflow of other people. And all my apps don't produce the final result, but they give you a kickstart for stuff, and then helps you with repetitive tasks and something like this.
So tell us about BeatMark Pro. That one just came out. You had BeatMark 1 and 2 already, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So what is BeatMark Pro? Go ahead.
Okay. BeatMark started as a simple app that I used to mark the beats of the music, so I can edit the music in Final Cut Pro. The usual workflow was simple. You drag a music file in the app analyzes it, and then produces an FCP XML file that is used by Final Cut Pro. And so you, in the end, you have in Final Cut Pro this music file with markers in sync with the beats of the music. So the music does tunes, 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 tunes. You have a marker on each the tunes, and so you can put videos and then use this as a cut point to do music in sync, video in sync with the music. And the previous version was BeatMark 2, was quite useful because not only mark the music, but you can use it to sign 4/4 of the music and the measures, and do easier cuts of the song. And I think that it worked well 85% of the times, worked fine 10% of the times, and worked awfully. It was very, very bad, unusable 5% of the times, depending of the nature of the music, the style, and a lot of stuff. And then this last summer, 2021, I started thinking about what I can do to improve BeatMark, because I wanted to use a new algorithm to find the beats, because the problem was that sometimes it misses some beats or misses the tempo. I used a open source algorithm. And then I started to think what I can do to improve this. And then I started thinking about I can use machine learning to learn to teach to the computer how to mark the beats. And then I say to myself, okay, you have to train this machine learning model with a lot of songs, and then I have to train this train this machine learning putting the markers on the song,
Right.
on the songs. And then I developed another algorithm to train this machine learning model, and it worked not so well, but it was different from the previous one. This time is a proprietary algorithm I developed 100% myself, and the funny thing is that sometimes it loses some bit, but it marked very, very well the right ones. So
Okay.
if you have a music that is toots, 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 sometimes maybe it loses a toots. But if you have a music that says toon, 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 something like this, it marks very, very precisely this bits. And so I said to myself, you know what? Instead of using this algorithm to feed and train a machine learning model, why don't you use these bits to create something? And so I, in the January this year, I downloaded 50 video clips for a ski argument with the ski subject from Storyblocks. It's a subscription model stock footage site that I use. And then I say to myself, let's try to use the market that I found with these clips. And so I wrote very, very fastly in an afternoon a little program that put this one of this clip for one of all the markers that I found. And then I exported this video, and then I watched it, and I said to myself, you know what? It doesn't suck. Maybe I can use it. And then I pivoted in my head, and I said to myself, this can be BeatMark 3, but it can be something different. I don't want to mark the music anymore. This time I want to do an aid for the editors, and so something that can give you a draft
Sure.
edit of,
Sure.
of clips in sync with the music. And then I started creating this app in January and February 2022. And 1 month and a half ago, I finished producing this app, and I fulfilled with a tons of options. And so you can do a lot of stuff with this app, because you can basically you drag the music, the app find the beats, and then you drag 50, 100 video clips or image clips or mixed, and then the app produces a video with all this stuff already edited in sync with the music as a kickstart, and then the video is exported and imported in Final Cut Pro, and then you have this timeline that you can adjust manually. And I do a lot of improvement for the rhythm, for the pace of the pace of the editing,
Right.
how to handle different frame sizes, aspect ratios, and special conform and something like this. And then this became an app that can review a very, very, very good kickstart with this kind of productions. But while I was working with my dog in this autumn, I was still thinking about this algorithm, and then I said to myself, you know what? I learned a lot of all these beats and all these markers, and I had this idea. Maybe I can find two similar part of the song with this beat, with these markers that are
Right.
so similar that I can cut at the first marker, and then cut at the second marker, cut out what there's in the middle, and then use the first part of the song and the last part of the song. And then it was one night I started writing this software. My wife was away, and then I exported this audio with this cut, and I listened to it, and I said to myself, "Oh my God, this is true! I did something that can change the duration of the music, finding part of the songs that are very, very similar." That's the things that I do when I change the duration of the music. But this time, the application can do this by itself, and then suggests you some cuts. You know, you have a 3 minute song, and you want a 30-second video, then you just type 30 seconds, and then the app suggests you something, a lot of cuts from 25 to 35 seconds, and then you can listen to them and find the one that you prefer, and then export the audio file as a standalone file, or use it as a timeline. And so the timeline is already edited at 30 seconds, with all the clips edited. And so this simple app became one of the most ambitious and most powerful app I ever produced. And that is BeatMark Pro. I say to myself, it's so complex, it's so powerful, and it needs explanation on how to use it. And so I'm developing a lot of tutorials that I say to myself, it's not BeatMark Free, it's BeatMark Professional, it's Pro.
Right.
And then it became, given the fact that it's Pro, I didn't raise the cost too high. Today, I'm still in launch period. It's $20, 20 euro. And after this launch period, it will be 25 euro. And so it will be something like $27, $28. I don't know. It
Right.
depends on the fluctuation of the
Sure.
change.
And it's still, that's a very, very reasonable price to, to start with. $20 now, $25 after the initial launch ends. So I have a couple questions. Do you, if you said you bring the audio in, it finds the beats, and then you bring in a group of clips. Is the clip order, is that what it determines how you select the clips, where it places those clips on the beats?
You can choose the clip order,
Okay.
or you can do this by random, or you can
Oh,
sort
random.
them
Okay. Yeah.
and you can sort them by random, and then you can select one clip to be the first and one clip to be the last. So you can do something for formats, and so the first clip and the last clip will be always the same, and then you can just have to save save as the document, and then remove all the clips except the first and the last one, and then do the thing once again for another format. It can be very, very useful for introduction identity videos and something like this. I use this all the time, and just 1 week ago, I produced the first commercial video that I was paid for with this application, and and I say to myself, you know what? It saved me 3 hours of time, and so I'm very, very happy. I still did color correction, and I added motion graphics for text and something like this. But the editing is absolutely the one that was produced by my app, and so as a research, as a proof of concept, I say to myself, I don't want to touch the editing. Everything is good. Okay, the client just wanted to change one clip with
Sure.
another source, and so everything will be done in Final Cut Pro, because now the Kickstart the Kickstart has been done by BeatMark. And last thing I have to add, that this BeatMark Pro is a document-based app, so you can save the document and then reopen it after, and so you can change something, you can do save as, you can, once you did the analysis, that it's quite fast, just as a matter of fact, but you can do a lot of stuff, because you can customize the editing, because you can say, okay, this marker in particular, use it always, or use this marker as the last one, or ignore this marker, or use a particular marker as a cut point. And so the app will try to find
Right.
all the cuts to change the music using the particular marker. So you say you're a musician,
Right.
you know that, when the cycle is repeating, is starting. So you say, okay, this is a moment of loop. I mark this. I select this marker, and I say the loop begins here. And so if you find other loops, the app will find. We will give priority to the marker that you selected with this. There's a lot of stuff that I added because I wanted to do something that is useful for me, and then I try to rationalize, to create boundaries and a container with a user interface to be so it can be used by other people and all my clients.
Right. Exactly. So this is all, obviously, the way this starts is using a particular song, right?
Yes.
But the stronger the beat, the better, I presume it does, right?
Yes and no, because the app adapts the beats to the music itself. And so if it's a soft music, all the thresholds are adapted. you know what, when the song is analyzed, there's a lot of passages that the app is doing. First,
Okay.
it translates into frequencies, just like an
Okay.
analysis of frequencies, and
Sure.
then demodulate the song, trying to identifies what are the moments of disruption, and then forgetting all the things that are equal in the equalization. There's a lot of algorithmic computation that the app does
Okay.
before giving the control to the user. And so, okay, and it works locally. And so if a part of the song is quiet and then the rest of the song is stronger, and there's a lot of dynamic, the app tries to adapt to the dynamic of the song.
Okay. Okay. So one of the things that I don't like when I'm editing for somebody else and they say initially use this piece of music, and then I'm halfway through the edit and they say, well, let's try this other piece of music, right? That's the worst thing, because music is so important. And as an editor and as a musician, I just find it naturally that I cut to the music, my edits to the music.
Yeah.
So changing the music is like starting all over again. I'm going to presume that if you had a group of clips you're working with, but you wanted to change a song, you just do a new document, right?
Yes.
Just reanalyze the music.
Yes. I was thinking about this. I don't have a clever solution right now to retain the editing with another music, but it's a very, very interesting feature request that I want. Maybe something like, okay, I have this editing, try to adapt this editing to another song. This is quite hard, but it's a great challenge, maybe for BeatMark Pro 1.5.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Because that seems like yeah.
I used the last video I produced. I do a lot of corporate videos for pharmaceutical companies, and the last one was a video that was not in sync with the music, but I edited the music to last with the exact duration of the video, and
Right.
so after the first choice, the agency was quite happy with this music. The final client wasn't happy, and so I proposed 5 different background music, and the client decided the one that they wanted, and then I changed the duration, and then I exported this audio file to be adapted for the video. I was very, very, very happy because it saved me a lot of time.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yes.
it wasn't in sync with the music, but the original video was a video with a lot of transition. There were no cut. Everything was smooth, and so there were no need for a very close music with the beats.
Like you said, you can adjust everything obviously in Final Cut Pro after the fact as well. Because sometimes you don't want to cut exactly on a beat, right? You want it a little before the beat, a little after the beat, right?
Yes. It depends. What do you mean about what do you mean for the beat? My app tries to find the main pattern. You have
Right.
to. So you can count this, but sometimes the drums and the snare drum are not at the right point, but they anticipated by 1/8 or 1/16 of measure, and so. While BeatMark 2 used an algorithm that tried to find the main pattern, my app find the beats, the real beats.
Right.
And then after finding all the beats, it tries to identify what is the main pattern and give more relevance to this pattern. But as always, if you easier part, you do the analysis and then give everything to Final Cut, and then you have all the markers, and then you can choose after to anticipate or delay a cut to go to get in sync. But if there's a song that you like a lot, you can use it in BeatMark Pro, and then mark particular bits and say, okay, use this, force to use this marker as a cut point, force this one. And so after a while, for the particular song, you have a very editing with this marker signed, and so with this particular marker activated, and so all the edit that will be done after will adhere a lot with your taste, with your particular pattern that you decided.
Right, right. So one of the things that helped me understand BeatMark Pro is your video that you have up on your site, which does a great job of explaining how to use it. So I'm going to play a little bit of that. Now, I'm not going to play the whole thing, obviously, but I'm going to play a little bit so people can see exactly what I'm talking about. This is your video. This is introduction to BeatMark Pro.
Hi guys, and welcome to this first tutorial of BeatMark Pro, our upcoming app, which will be released May 5, 2022. I'm very excited and I'm filled with emotions because this is one of the most ambitious, maybe the most ambitious app we will ever produce. So without much further ado, let's dive into this tutorial. This is the thing we will produce. As you can see, it's a simple reel for an Instagram account that talks about fashion week. Sorry.
So first off, all the aspect ratios of those clips, were they all video clips?
Yes.
Okay, so those were all vertical?
They were all horizontal, and then I wanted to produce a square video to show that the fact that my app can handle a lot, every resolution, every aspect ratio, and every frame rate. And for this in particular, I always you can select that all the clips have special conforming fill.
Right.
It is perfect because instead you will have the bandwidth, the pillar box,
right,
bandwidth.
Right.
And but afterward in the tutorial I explained that all the video are centered, but if you use the Smart Conform feature with the Final Cut Pro 10.6 have, then all the clips are recentered, and everything is done in almost in 5 to 10 minutes. And the tutorial was done almost in real time. I just cut all the parts where I say something that is not audible in English because it's not my first language, as you can hear.
No, you're great. You do great. That's fantastic. So it's dealing with multiple aspect ratios, dealing with Instagram stories versus regular horizontal landscape videos. They've done an amazing job at Final Cut now recently with machine learning or whatever the heck they're doing with center cutting and stuff. And with your app, it does it. Is there a setting that you have to set to deal with vertical video versus horizontal video?
Yes, you can select in the app that you want a timeline in a particular format for aspect ratio, resolution, and frame rate. And but sometimes if you have to produce multiple copies of your video, one horizontal, one square, and one vertical, I would say do everything horizontal and then create copies in Final Cut, and then do change the resolution, change the aspect ratio in Final Cut, and then do Smart Conform, and then look at each clip one by one to find if Final Cut. It's machine learning. It's not a person.
No, exactly. And you can also use combinations of landscape and vertical in the same project, right? You can go back and forth.
I don't understand the question.
So well, in other words, if I was going to do a video, and suppose I want it to be landscape, but there's nothing to stop me from using vertical clips as well, right? In the landscape?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can mix videos and images. It can import images in PNG, TIFF, and JPEG format, and maybe even in
HEVC?
HIEC. Yeah, no, HEIC for
Oh,
the
the
for the
stills.
clips, for the stills, and for the video it handles everything in MOV with MOV, so QuickTime, and so even H.265 and MP4.
Right,
That's the standard.
right. So we had one question to ask, is it possible to use BeatMark with only a dialogue audio? I'm not sure how you would do that.
It's quite interesting. If you do a dialogue audio, you start with an audio file,
Right,
and it will try to mark the most important, the most energy relevant bits of the audio. So if you say "hi there," it will.
right.
I think they will put a marker on the eye and another marker in there. But this is a very exaggerated example, because when you talk, you have a lot of waveform up and down.
Right.
So I don't know how it will. I will behave. I will have to try.
Yeah, I guess you could get it maybe an initial rough cut, perhaps, but you still have to go back. Well, you have to go back in anyway and adjust things in Final Cut. I mean, no matter what. But audio, I'm not sure how a regular dialogue would work, because, like you said, it's especially if you talk even. You know, if you talk very even, it wouldn't have a lot of, markers. It seems.
But every syllable, every letter counts, and so I think that BeatMark will do an interesting job trying to find a lot of beats, but BeatMark will not find a main pattern, because you don't talk like this. So,
Right, exactly. Exactly. So we're going to give away a copy of BeatMark Pro, and we're going to do it for this. This is one of my favorite comments, because it's the truth. Sound is everything. So we're going to give a copy to The Mannequin Tales by Jason Mark Williams. You get to contact me after the episode, and we'll give you a copy of that. We have some more copies to give away, so just keep on commenting in the thing, and I'll pick chats, something that comes up that catches my eye. That one caught my eye because I agree. And how many times, Final Cut, everybody says audio is at least 50% of good video. Well, at least 50%, right? It's maybe 60 or 70%.
That's true for all the aspects of video. Today, it's quite difficult to communicate this, because 90% of what people watch as a movie pass through an iPhone with a very, very, very tiny speaker, and so you cannot work as much as on audio. But audio is the most important thing, and I was a musician too, and I always prefer go to a theater where the sound is excellent, so I can be completely surrounded, not only technically but emotionally, by
Yes.
the audio part that is the most emotional one. You see things, and you have the rational part of your mind, but with audio, with all the other senses, you get what is the emotion part one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Whenever I watch a film, if you just turn the audio off, you lose all the emotion. I mean, when I used to teach a class, when I used to teach Final Cut, I'm a certified trainer for Final Cut Pro 10, and I taught at Boston University in Georgetown and Washington, D.C. They had a satellite place there, and I taught for Future Media Concepts, different classes, D.C. and Virginia. And we get to the part about audio and talking about audio versus video, which is more important. And of course, if you know, people always say, it's at least 50% of good video. And I gave them a couple of examples. I gave him the example of the shower scene in Psycho, right? The Alfred Hitchcock scene. So if you watch the scene with no sound, there's nothing there. If you make the screen black and put that sound clip in, it still gives me chills, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is there's a lot of examples like that, but audio, especially if you get involved with, like the shower scene in Psycho or other things, it contains all the emotion. And it really, really, if you choose the right sound, the right music, it really adds to the video. But at least if you're not doing music, clear audio, okay? Clear audio. People have got into the habit, well, maybe not the habit, and I use it myself, but they're now using audio plugins to clean up their sound, right? That's a big thing now. And I use them myself if I'm on location and I don't have control of the sound. But if you're in a studio, you should have control of your sound, and you shouldn't need cleanup plugins for that. Control your levels, control your background noises, record in a good place. Now, I record a lot of live stuff, and I don't have. I just did a whole thing at NAB. I have no control over anything there. So I did use cleanup plugins for that audio. And speaking of that, the new version of Final Cut Pro 10.6.2, which came out 2 weeks before NAB, that voice isolation plugin, whatever the heck they're doing, is fantastic. Whatever the Final Cut Pro team. Go ahead.
I used it in a previous video I recorded yesterday, and I was very impressed. But I always used Isotope RX.
Yes.
RX7 and now RX8. I don't like
Right.
RX9 because I think it's doing a worst job. And sometimes I think they use the same engine, and Apple is licensed this engine to do this stuff because I used a lot of Isotope RX9, 8 for my podcasting because I'm a podcaster, and I think it's quite magical and impressive, and sometimes it scares me how much the artificial intelligence can do. And because I love the fact that now is integrated in Final Cut.
And, typical of the Final Cut Pro team is it's one slider knob. That's all it has, is one single control. I think it starts at 50% when you apply at 50%, and you can go down or up. And I've used it high, 75% or even 100%, and it doesn't do that artificial noise, artificial voice thing that happens a lot of times. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. It's not the same as noise reduction. This is a separate plugin in Final Cut because it still has noise reduction. You can still use that. I don't know how it's doing it. I have no idea. I know it's machine learning, and I'm still not clear the difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence. I think I asked Philip Hodgetts, and he said that machine learning is a form of artificial intelligence. Does that sound right?
Yeah, artificial intelligence is everything that can relate to something that the computer does to emulate human behavior. Machine learning is a subset of this, and today is the 100% because it's the norm.
Okay.
And because that's the way you produce artificial intelligence is via machine learning.
Okay, there you go. So I'm looking forward to more artificial intelligence and machine learning in Final Cut, which is, the main NLE that I use. I've been dabbling in DaVinci Resolve, and I like LumaFusion as well. But what I've seen so far, I've been very, very impressed with it. Now, if it can just take over the whole edit for me, that would be great. If I can put the clips in, take a nap, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and give me a cut, which is kind of like what your BeatMark Pro does, right?
Yes, you just have to do color correction sometimes. But the stuff that DaVinci Resolve is doing with machine learning impressed me a lot. They did a shape tracker to isolate a foreground person to the background, and it's doing a lot better than After Effects. And I was very, 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 very impressed when I watched this on YouTube, and I say to myself, this is the real game changer, because if you teach a computer how to separate foreground and background, you can do a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. And that's right. If you start with the demo, then all the things are good and everything is perfect, and the light is perfect and everything is so pristine that there's no problem in doing this. I'd like to see how this machine learning models works in the field, when you do the stuff with your camera, with your phone, with your problems, with your backgrounds, with your people. This is the real game changer, when it works in real life and not only in demos. But the stuff that I saw in the YouTube was very impressive.
Yes, me too. I've been very impressed. So we had one little comment. Nice to hear the kids in the background. That I don't have any kids here. That was my cat. That was Buffy the cat. She's outside the studio door saying maybe she's hungry or something. I'm not sure what. My girlfriend's taking care of her. So we got a comment. It's all the Apple way, one button and a wizard or slider that does a lot of work behind what most users never know, and finally the magic happens. Yes, but I still want access to some of the hidden controls, right? In Final Cut.
Richard,
Sometimes
if this is, as I think, a license for the Isotope RX engine, in RX there's only one slider, and it starts at 50%, and you have only this slider. So this was the thing that made me think that it's Isotope, because it's the same user interface. It means only one slider, and it starts at 50%.
So, but you're not saying that Apple's using the Isotope, are you?
I don't know, but that's the things that I suppose. I didn't open a Final Cut to search for the code and see if there's something from Isotope, but it means it seems it's likely.
Well, I guess the thing is this. Yes, I like the simplicity of a lot of times Final Cut, but I need to dig in sometimes. And I'll give you a perfect example. Mark Spencer just did a tutorial about using motion to publish a better Ken Burns effect.
I saw it today.
Because the reason he had to do that was because we don't have access to that in Final Cut. I'd like to have access to that in Final Cut. You know what I'm saying? In this case, it was the Z parameter, so you can do the zoom in smoother without, because Final Cut does this weird thing with keyframing where it doesn't do it linear, or it does it, easing in and out. You don't have the access sometimes to get in there and change those. I'd like to have access. Like, I'm sure you're familiar with the keyframe editor in Motion, right?
Yes. My favorite software for this kind of stuff is After Effects, but sometimes I use Motion only just for this kind of stuff, because it's so easy and integrated in Final Cut that publishing parameters is very useful.
Right.
To customize something that can be a fingerprint for a particular video or a particular brand.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd like the fact that Mark had to do that. If it was if you had access to it in Final Cut, you wouldn't have to do that. So the simplicity of a single slider, yes, but sometimes I want to get in a little deeper, and I'd like to have the option. Doesn't have to be the default action, but I'd like to have the option to get in there. Like, I would love the keyframe editor that Motion has, or something like that in Final Cut, right?
Well, I totally agree with you, and I say with all my apps, I start to be simple, and then I add all the controls, and then I start a job of working to find the right default value. So if you use the default value, the result is quite good. But I want to give you the ability, the possibility, and it's quite difficult because if you give the user all the power that you want to give the user, but the user interface becomes complex, and so you have to find a way to hide the complexity So the default value is quite easy to find, and then if you want to do something more customized and more personal and more precise, you have to find a way to give easy access to these tools, but
Yes.
not to be in foreground, because
No, absolutely. I agree. I agree. So Logic Pro has, when you open it up, it's a simple mode, but it has an advanced preference with a whole bunch of check marks you can check on, check on, check on, check on. I'd like that for Final Cut as well for some of the stuff. I guess mostly I see it with keyframing. With keyframing, there's an issue with keyframing mask, color effects and stuff that we didn't have access to for a while. And in my case, the motion, when you do a motion thing in the viewer, I'm not sure if it's still that way, but it used to have this weird little curved dip that you couldn't get rid of. No matter what you did, you can go into the, whatever, and you couldn't change that. So that's the kind of things I'm talking about. Simplicity, I love that one single slider. It does a great job. But sometimes I want to get in a little more modification because it's there somewhere. So we got a question here. Who is quicker, making coffee or putting a track for analysis in BeatMark Pro?
I think that it depends on the coffee machine and the duration of the music. This machine that I'm using is a MacBook Pro 2019,
Right.
with a 32 gig of RAM. And for a 5-minute song, to do all the analysis, it takes something like 2.5 minutes.
There you go.
Not so much.
Not so much.
And if you are nearer to the coffee machine, maybe you can do a coffee in a smaller time, but the coffee machine must be already warm.
Right. So I'll tell you one thing that's quicker. You just won yourself a copy of BeatMark Pro for that comment. There you go. There you go. It's that easy. Just make the comment catches my eye or catches Alex's eye, and we'll give you a copy. Now, here's an interesting comment. Video is everything, too. Just ask Buster Keaton. Absolutely. Absolutely. Buster Keaton is, I've been watching some of his movies recently. Hilarious. Hilarious with no dialogue. So, absolutely. But go ahead.
I want to add something to the previous argument, because audio is more important than video. And when a lot of times ago, I was a journalist for a technical paper, and I was invited at the presentation of Final Cut Studio 4. You remember? And they introduced the Final Cut Studio soundtrack. I loved that program. I missed so much Soundtrack Pro because I used a lot to produce a lot of background music and do a lot of experimentation. And the show, the demo man, I don't remember its name, from Apple, he said, good editors are good audio editors. And that's absolutely true. If you listen to a lot of music, if you are interested in music, if you have a background as a musician, you can do a lot better in editing. It helps you a lot, because if you don't have to understand music, you do not need to read a music sheet, but if you understand how the rhythm goes, how the harmonics, and how to do a counterpoint with video, doing something against the rhythm of the music to create a second layer of rhythm, then you can do a lot of stuff with video editing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've noticed, well, as a musician, I find myself always thinking of editing with music or editing to a beat, even if there's not music in there. There's a rhythm to when I do a cut. And I find myself counting it off, even if there's no music. When I do a clip, I'll count it off like 1, 2, 3, cluck, 1, 2. It's just the way I am. It's just being a musician all my life. That's the way I look at life. So
it's sometimes it's like that you are hearing the video, hearing the music without hearing the rhythm of
yes,
the music. It's,
yes.
and sometimes it appears too natural to you to let's do a cut precisely in this point because it flows with the rest of the editing.
I even do my keyboard shortcuts by beat. I'll do I'll do a rhythm as I do. That's just the way I just you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever. I just do that rhythm thing all the time. So the one thing we mentioned Soundtrack Pro, which people were waiting for Soundtrack Pro 10 or X whatever over for the years. I don't think I'd be pleasantly surprised if they came out with a interim version of an audio program between Final Cut and Logic. Although Audio Design Desk, if you've seen that, is pretty incredible, pretty incredible app. But the only thing I didn't like about Soundtrack Pro, I don't like horizontal faders. Soundtrack Pro, they went, I like vertical faders. That's just, you know, one of the things that I prefer. I don't like horizontal faders. So let me see what else we have. Let's go back and watch a little more of your tutorial video while we're here. Look at that handsome guy. Look at him.
For this silly
Yeah,
names.
so handsome.
And we will see how to produce this entirely or almost entirely in BeatMark Pro with little effort. So let's start with the assets. In this folder I have this Final Cut project. As you can see, is a completely empty project. Nothing has been added, not a single clip, not a single asset. So let's hide it. And then we have some promo clips. We downloaded them from a stock footage repository. Let's see some one of them. We have this girl with an hair dryer, the same girl, makeup artist. This is a very slow motion with a model, another model, an interesting model, yeah, and then a photo shoot, and then another model, and so on. Okay, we have a bunch of clips, and then in the same folder we have the music. It's an MP3 music. Okay, it's a simple stomp music. It's almost out of date today in 2022 because we're not in 2018, but I don't care. This is something that can be used. And last, we have this logo, Fashion Week. I know that. Don't say a word. Okay, let's start using BeatMark Pro and see how we can produce this this intro in a very few steps. Now let's go here and open BeatMark Pro. At launch, it asks you if you want to open an existing document or create a new one. Let's create a new one, and maybe let's save it in the same folder. Okay. Now BeatMark Pro, File, Save, and save it. Fashion Week. Okay. Now let's drag the music, this MP3 music. There's a warning. BeatMark Pro works only on a certain kind of waveform file. So if you drag a waveform that is not particularly perfect for BeatMark Pro, or if you drag another kind of audio file, it converts it for you. So let's say proceed, and here you can see the waveform of this audio file. Now let's click on this button, Analyze, to analyze it. As BeatMark Pro analyzes the file, and it's very faster than BeatMark 2. And so you can see all the bit markers that have been added. Now let's hide this folder and concentrate on the music. We want the music to stay for 15 seconds, and so we have to change the duration of the music. So let's click on this change duration icon, and another time let's click on Analyze. As you can see, the analysis process is very fast. It's faster than with BeatMark 2. Let's say that for a 5-minute song, all the processing takes something like 1 minute. So it's not too much. And The most important thing is that every time you do something, you can go to File and Save, and all the analysis have been saved to that document, so you don't need to reanalyze all the stuff going forward. Now,
So anyway, that's the tutorial. I don't want to play the whole thing. Every time I start watching, I'm going, wow, I learned something each time I watch it. But that's available on your website, right?
Yes. If you go to the Altimedia site and the page of BeatMark Pro, that is alti.media/bpro, but you will have this link in your in the description of this video. You can find this and all the tutorials that I produced for BeatMark Pro and for all my apps.
Right. Now that tutorial is very, very good, because when I watched that, I understood a lot better exactly what was going on. So let me see what else we have. We have a lot of comments today. How many of us in life play music, whether we know it or not? That's very true. If you have somebody that's always tapping on the desk with a couple of pencils, it's probably a drummer in another life or whatever. But like I said, I do everything. I just find myself naturally cutting to those imaginary beats, even if there's no music.
This comment in particular, the one
Yes.
of Eric, is very important for me, because
Yes.
that's the principle that changed my mind about BeatMark Pro. Because as I said in the beginning of this year, I was doing a corporate video for a pharmaceutical company, another one, and then I used BeatMark 2 to produce the music, and how can I say? And I did the editing of the video, and then after the work finished, I watched it and I say, "Oh my God! I did all the cuts at the start of the measure, at the first quarter." And I say to myself, "This is very boring." The video worked; it was okay.
Right,
The client
right.
appreciated it, but there were no rhythm in the video, because the video followed absolutely the rhythm of the music. And that's the thing that changed my mind, because I say to myself, you know what, if I use the beats that the new algorithm found, maybe I can find something different than the usual quarter. 1 2 3 4
Yes.
1 2 3
Yes.
4 cut 2 3. And then this was the principle that I used to generate this new algorithm. And so if you use BeatMark Pro, you will never have a video that have a cutout at the first measure, because it analyzes the songs and finds something that is more relevant, that cannot be heard by our intelligence. It means that the intelligence of the algorithm is very, very, very bad, worse than the human one, but it can find you something different to start working on. And then I think it's quite interesting. And then you can refine the editing, because you can say to BeatMark to have an higher frequency of change of cuts in the beginning and then at the end, and then have a slow pace in the middle,
Right,
or have
right.
a rising pace or something like this. And you can customize it. Maybe you can say, okay, make all the clips last at least 0.5 second, 1 second. So you, even if the rhythm is very, very, very high, in the end, you will have a small pace to have a more relaxed editing, and without spikes of frequency of cuts and values of completely calm
Right.
part of the video. I added all this stuff, and I will explain them in the next tutorial I will produce this Sunday, because it changed. Because if you use the default values, that's okay. But refining this with the fine tuning with these values, you can do a very different editing with using the same music and the same clips, but with a completely different pace, and then change this into something that is more likable for the client or for the final watcher. This is the product that the video product that I produced 1 week ago, and it was the first one that I completely done in BeatMark, and I will reproduce and do the same with this tutorial to show all the people how to tweak the values to do something that is more near to the final product.
Absolutely. So we have a question from John Essex. It says, what inspired Alex to develop this plugin?
The fact that I always do video editing in sync with the music, and I started using the M key on the keyboard, but there's always a little delay, and maybe I'm not so perfect in rhythm as a professional drummer, and so a lot of times I look at a very expanded timeline with a very zoomed timeline to adjust the beats. And so I say to myself, okay, for a 3-minute song, it takes me half an hour. I can spend 6 months of my life producing an app that makes me do this in 1 minute. And that was the origin of BeatMark X, the first version. This last version was that I needed something new, because I think that BeatMark 2 reached his point, and I wanted to do something completely different. You can still buy BeatMark 2 because it's quite a different app, but I think that it's not so useful today, because if you want to mark the music, that's a question. If you want an aid to cut video driven by the music, not only in sync with the music, but driven by the music, that's the BeatMark Pro, and that's the reason why I produced this new version.
Right, exactly. So we have another question here. Can you work in clip that has 2 tracks? What does it say there? 2 tracks, slow at the beginning and a little upbeat the second half. Why not? Sure. Right?
Actually, BeatMark works with only an audio file. If you want to blend two different tracks, you have to do an edit before, and then give this edited song to BeatMark to start with. I know that it's a limitation, but if you do corporate video or this kind of video for Instagram, you usually use one song. It's so rare that you can use more than one song that I didn't think of it, and I will never do, I think.
Well, if one song started out slow and then sped up, you could use that, right, as one track?
Yeah, yes.
Well, I think maybe that's what he's talking about. If you had, he says 2 tracks, but I think he means one track after the other on one,
Yeah. Yes, I know. I have to admit, I say that the last version of Premiere does a very, very, very freaking job in shortening music using machine learning. They add this feature in a very, very little preference window, but you can do this stuff in real time. In the timeline, you take the clip, you do the analysis with machine learning, and then you stretch the audio to make it shorter or longer, and then the machine learning will find a lot of transition point from one point of another. Actually, in this moment, BeatMark works with only 2 cuts. So you have the beginning of the song, the end of the song, and it take away something in the middle to adjust to the desired duration.
Okay.
I know that this is a limitation. I'm thinking about an expansion of this, but this is just in my mind today. I don't think it will be out in the next. I don't think it will be out soon, because I don't know, because all the time that Apple announces a new version of Final Cut, I say, okay, let me see how many of my apps became useless.
Sure.
And,
well,
I know, in the last WWDC.
Yes.
No, maybe 2 years ago, they presented a Phantomatic new version of Final Cut, which does content analysis on clips. To know, you say, okay, this is a microphone, this is a person, this is lenses, etc., etc., etc. And so, because I have an app that does that, FCP audio video tag, I said to myself, okay, I'm done. This app is going end of line. 2 years after, this feature is still missing in Final Cut. So I say to myself, okay, their pace is very slow. I think that it will be today. One day they will produce a version of Final Cut that will do smart audio stretching. But as of today, their upgrade pace is so slow that I'm not so worried.
Right. So John Essex says, I'll use BeatMark Pro and send the assistant to go get the coffee. Happy days.
Yeah.
Well, that's happy days for you because you just want to copy a BeatMark Pro. How about that? There you go. It's that easy. It's that easy. All right. So my friend Torgrim, who I met at the Creative Summit last in 2019, studying MTV videos in the 80s, often found that they were cut on 2 and 4, but also sometimes the cut came consequently 1 frame behind the beat. It's psychological. And yes, but when I cut a music video, I don't always cut exactly on every single beat. Sometimes it stretches out for 2 beats or 3 beats, and you make a cut, you make something longer. You don't want, something so regimented that it's predictable. You want to change things up.
Correct.
So,
we have to say that music in the 80s was very, 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 very beaten. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is another great comment. He says, human touch is necessary.
He's a friend of mine in Italy.
Is he?
He's just here to... Yes. It's a friend of mine. He lives in the Gulf of Naples, and it's a very talented developer, and is a very quite gentle and lovely person. I met it once, and I hope to meet him again now that he and I can travel again.
Yep, absolutely. I've never been to Italy. I've been to Paris, to France, and I've been to England a bunch of times. Never been to Italy, but when I come back to Europe, I certainly will stop in Italy. It has so many things that I want to see over there. All the art.
Italy is something like 20 different countries put together. As US, you have a lot of states.
50.
That's
50
the same
states.
that's the same in Italy. We have 20 regions and a lot of cities and a lot of places like mountains, lakes, shores, islands, and we have a lot of good food and good wines.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I know all about that. When I was in Paris, it's been a long time since I was there, but I went with I had a record contract with the same company as a company in Boston, and they also signed Cub Coda, the guy that wrote "Smoking in the Boys' Room" from Brownsville Station. So he was over going to France, and I went over with him to support his band and stuff, to play in his band. And we stayed in a hotel, and I'll never forget this. In the morning, we get a gentle knock on the door, and outside the door would be 2 cups of coffee, fresh brewed coffee, and fresh croissants. And that was the best thing in the world to wake up to every morning. Just a little knock on the door, and outside the door would be this tray with this coffee. It was absolutely the best. So you have trial versions of all your software?
Yes, all my software can be downloaded and used full featured for 7 days. And after that, if you want to continue to use them, you have to pay. No.
Absolutely.
The funny thing is that sometimes people buy the software without even trying it, and sometimes it happens it's not what they think of, and so I always do refund for this because I want to maintain a good karma. But I always say to the people, okay, I refund you, no problem, but tell me, why did you buy the app without even trying?
Right. No, of course.
I don't know.
Of course.
They never answer this question. They get the money back and then run away. No problem.
Right.
I have absolutely no problem. I still continue to having this business. It's growing year by year. it's still my second job. My first job is I'm a TV commercial director and editor, and I work in this field, and I love this. This is some kind of second job, but it's becoming more important every year because first I do more app, and then I become better at programming them.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Do you have of all your apps? Do you have a favorite one? Is BeatMark Pro your favorite?
Maybe it's the second favorite one, the one that I use most, and the one that I'm more proud of because it's the more modern one. The first one that I developed, the second one, but the most complex one I developed in Swift UI. That is the new way of developing stuff in Apple.
Right.
The app that I used most is a Producer. It's a producer. It's a podcast producer app. And I use it for all my podcasts, and it was not a big success. And I think that I went into a market that I didn't know. I still sell it, I still support it, I still continue to improve it. But I think this is an app that I use. A lot of friends of mine use to produce their podcast, but it was one of the most unsuccessful app I've ever produced. But I think BeatMark will be I use BeatMark 2 all the time to do stuff with video, and now I switched to BeatMark Pro. And I think that when I watch the interface, I think that it can be tweaked a little to become more simpler. But I love the visual aspect, and given I admit they have to increase performance to make it more the user experience more smoother. But at this time, I think this the app that I am more proud of, because I say to myself, I started developing it in 6 months ago, and now it's there, and it's a big app. And I learned tons of stuff doing this.
Right, exactly. So that comment we had, Poison did a cover of that track, right, in the 80s? No, it was Motley Crue. Motley Crue did a cover of Smoking in the Boys' Room. That's what we were talking about. Let me see if that's...
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was Motley Crue, and they made a big hit out of it. And I remember after they did that, they made a big hit, and then I called up Cub after that, and I said, "I guess you're making a lot of money now." And he said, "Well, I'm making something." He since then has passed away, but it was really fun going to Europe with him, over to Paris with him. The first night we were there, I remember. I don't think either of us had been in Paris. Maybe he was, but we spent hours in a cafe drinking cafe au lait, and we were so buzzed by the time we finished. We were just completely flying, because we just got done off the airplane and got through the airport and all that, and we went to a cafe, and just the best coffee over there. I just had it, but I know the espresso came from Italy, though. I know that. All right. So what else do we have to talk about, Alex? Anything else? Have we covered enough on BeatMark Pro?
I think so. I'd like to have a feedback from my customers and from my user to understand what they think of. But the fact that they wrote in the chat, I understand that sometimes I have to tweak a little my communication. I have to admit, this time the web page of the app is not as perfect as I wanted it to be. But March and April was very, very, very busy month. Not only developing app, but for my first job, the second job, and another job that I took as an animator, and so I didn't have the time to produce the pristine version of this website. But I started to think that maybe I can do some tutorials so the people can actually see what the Apple can do and in how much time.
It makes all the difference in the world. That tutorial that you already did was really, really good start on that. And it really helped me understand exactly what was going on with it. So, Yeah, do some more of those. And the one thing I would suggest is sometimes people get too rambunctious in the tutorials and they go too fast. Okay, you don't have to go real slow, but just like a nice medium tempo. But remember, people that are watching are not as familiar with the app as you are as being a developer. I've seen both too slow and too fast, but right in the middle is a good, good speed.
I know that, and sometimes I fear that I'm going too slow because it's not my main language, English, and so sometimes I say, okay, if someone is not from an English-based language country, they say, oh my God, it talks so weirdly, and then I don't want to hear it. So I try to be as smooth as possible. Sometimes I exaggerate with editing. I have when I talk to interns and students, because sometimes I teach too, I always say that the main rule of editing is that something is 1 minute long, it can last 55 seconds.
Right.
And the second rule of editing is that something is 55 seconds long, it can last 50 seconds.
Right.
So
Right.
I always
Exactly.
try to raise time. I'm a TV commercial director and editor, and so a lot of times we use a 20 seconds cut or 50 seconds cut, and so every frame is important, and I try to shrink as much as I can to still continue to have the same message, but with the shortened time that I have to adapt.
Absolutely. And right up here is your domain, alti.media. And the way that you taught me how to remember that when I first had you on, it's multimedia, just take away the M.
Yes.
So it's alti.media instead of multimedia. Very clever.
Yes, I like this word, this joke of words, because it's like ultimate media and something like this. It's a lot of stuff in just a simple name, and I'm very happy that I have I've been able to purchase the domain .media, and that no one else thought about Alti before.
Right. Right. No, it's very clever. Very clever. I really like that. That's how I remember it every time. Multimedia. Oh yeah. Alti.media. That's how we find it. So your tutorials are great. This plugin is fantastic. I really, really like it.
Thanks.
I'm looking forward to getting your TextExpander plugin because I'm just like you. I use TextExpander. I've been using it for years, but I never updated to the subscription model. I'm using the old version, and I can see that it's going to be a point where I can't use it anymore. So, and I use those all the time. I have a whole library of, expanders.
I can share my screen so I can show you the app.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, now share my screen.
Let me see what comes up. I'll put you on full screen.
Just a moment that I have to allow the app to record the screen.
Right.
Second privacy. Come cactus. Eccolo qua. Just a moment.
Sure.
Okay. I have to get out the app and reopen. No problem. And I can send you a PNG of the app and send you via email so you can share to your audience, because I think there's because there's something that is more important, more better than just a moment. I think there's something that is better than TextExpander, because you can organize the expansion in categories and then have a list of the expansions. So you have a hierarchical view of this of the audio of your snippet of code or text expansion is more elegant than TextExpander, in my opinion. I sent
Gotcha.
you an email so you can show it to your audience. Yes, that's it. It seems more professional than TextExpander.
Yes, it already does, just from that one screen grab. Absolutely. I'm excited. I love your plugins anyway. That's why I always have you on the show. Every time something new comes out, absolutely. You've had so many great plugins over your. Let me go to your website. So here's his website. Let me add Alex in here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's Alex. So this is the website, and there's all kinds of stuff in here. This is where the tutorials are, and you have media power bundles, multimedia Final Cut bundles, all kinds of things. We've had you on the show. This is third or fourth time.
Yes, I think fourth time today. I always do bundles because if you are interested in more than one app, you can save money. The ultimate bundle allows you to save something like 55% of the cost. But I always produce the Final Cut bundle to have all the Final Cut apps, and then I have a new bundle, the Final Cut Essentials, that has BeatMark Pro, FCPX Diet, and this is an app that shrinks the save space on the Final Cut Pro libraries. And Multimedia Converter is a video converter app, the one that we talked about last time that was the year.
There's a whole bunch. There are bunches, dozens of apps and plugins there that are very, very useful. So I'm really glad that you're making these plugins. I'm glad that you can make it on the show tonight. And hopefully you didn't drink.
I'm very honored to be here.
Absolutely. So I think we've covered everything. What do you think?
Yeah. Everything is perfect. And oh my God, it's 9:45 in Italy.
Exactly. I was just going to say, I hope you didn't drink too much espresso before the show. I had 1 cup of coffee, but I still, it's only it's almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, so we're good. Alex, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much to the listeners for giving away a few copies of your. I have one more copy to give away, but I'm going to do that next week on another Final Cut TV Live. I always like to save one. Alex, thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks to everybody who watched me, and ciao from Italy.